vault supervisor at Loomis Fargo and Company, committed one of the largest cash heists in American history, making off with over $17 million. The audacious theft, which involved meticulous planning and a network of accomplices, came to an end in a dramatic manhunt and the eventual capture of those involved. The Loomis Fargo Heist of 1997, also known as a hillbilly heist, stands as a testament to the old adage that crime doesn't pay. This audacious theft, which took place in Charlotte, North Carolina, captured the nation's attention and became the stuff of legend. The facility, located in an industrial park, was responsible for collecting and distributing cash for banks and businesses across the region. At the center of this incredible tale was David Scott Ghantt, a former U.S. Army medic turned Loomis Fargo armed car driver. He was an unassuming vault supervisor who saw an opportunity to change his life dramatically, albeit through criminal means. Ghantt's journey from a law-abiding citizen to the mastermind of America's largest cash heist is a cautionary tale of how easily one can be seduced by the promise of easy money and a luxurious lifestyle. David Ghantt, a soft-spoken, hard-working man, found himself at a crossroads in his life. Dissatisfied with his meager earnings, Ghantt's yearning for excitement and financial security led him down a perilous path. Working as a vault supervisor at Loomis Fargo and Company, Ghantt had access to millions of dollars in cash, a temptation too great to resist. He had been working for Loomis Fargo and Company for years, dutifully transporting millions of dollars in cash without incident. The seeds of the Loomis Fargo heist were sown long before that fateful night in October 1997. However, his life took a dramatic turn when he met Kelly Campbell, a former co-worker at Loomis. She and Ghantt quickly struck up a relationship, one that Campbell denies was ever romantic, though FBI evidence says otherwise, and one that continued after she left the company. Campbell introduced Ghantt to her old high school friend, Stephen Eugene Chambers, in August 1997. He lived with his wife, Michelle Chambers. It was during their conversations that the idea of robbing Loomis Fargo began to take shape. Chambers, with his street-smart demeanor and grand ambitions, saw in Ghantt the perfect inside man for a heist that could set them all up for life. Chambers had also broached the possibility of a robbery to Campbell the summer before. The plan was relatively simple in concept, but audacious in scale. Ghantt, using his insider knowledge and access, would enter the Loomis Fargo vault after hours and make off with as much cash as he could. He would then flee to Mexico with a small portion of the money, while Chambers and Campbell would manage the bulk of the cash in the United States. To sweeten the deal for Ghantt, Chambers promised that once things had cooled down, he would join Ghantt in Mexico with more money, allowing them to live like kings. The planning phase stretched out over several months, with the conspirators meeting regularly to iron out the details. They discussed everything from the best time to execute the heist to how they would handle the enormous amount of cash. Ghantt provided crucial information about the security systems, personnel schedules, and vault layout at Loomis Fargo. As the plan came together, more people were brought into the fold. Chambers recruited his friends and relatives to assist with moving and hiding the money. The circle of conspirators was growing, increasing both the scope of the operation and the risk of discovery. On the evening of October 4, 1997, David Ghantt put the plan into action. It was a Saturday, and Ghantt was working the evening shift at the Loomis Fargo facility in Charlotte. Ghantt sent a newly employed coworker home early at 6 p.m. who had been assigned to train with him. Once alone, Ghantt sprang into action. He disabled the alarm systems and security cameras near the vault in preparation for the heist, using his insider knowledge to bypass the facility's security measures. But he failed to disable the third camera. Ghantt worked tirelessly, stuffing canvas bags and boxes with as much cash as he could possibly manage. The physical labor was intense, Each bag of cash weighed around 40 pounds, and Ghantt had to move quickly. He then proceeded to load about $17.3 million in cash, approximately $11 million of which was in $20 bills, into the back of a company van. The sheer volume of money presented a logistical challenge. Ghantt had to make multiple trips between the vault and the van, each time risking detection. He knew that time was of the essence. The longer he stayed, the greater the chance of being caught. After several hours of frantic work, Ghantt had loaded the van with an astounding $17.3 million in cash. It was the largest cash robbery in U.S. history at the time, overlooking previous heists. Outside the building, Ghantt met up with Campbell, Chambers, and others who were involved in the plot, and drove off to a printing business called Reynolds & Reynolds in Northwest Charlotte. From there, the money was moved from the company vehicle to private vehicles. Then, keeping with the plan, Ghantt took $50,000, the maximum that could by law be taken across the border without further authorization, with him and left for Mexico, winding up at the popular Yucatan Peninsula resort island of Cozumel. Meanwhile, back in Charlotte, the audacity and scale of the theft were becoming apparent. Loomis Fargo employees could not open the vault the next morning and called the police. The police then called the FBI because most of the money handled at the facility belonged to banks, which technically made it a bank robbery, which is a federal offense. Investigators considered Ghantt to be the prime suspect almost from the beginning. He was the only employee absent for the next morning, and videotapes recovered at the Loomis Fargo Charlotte office showed Ghantt removing cubes of cash and loading it into a Loomis Fargo armored van for over an hour. 2 days later, when the FBI found the Loomis Fargo armored van, they discovered almost $3.3 million in cash left in the back of the van. It was later discovered that the thieves had miscalculated the sheer bulk of the small denomination currency, and that they simply left the cash that they could not take with them in the back of the van. Investigators also found Ghantt's pickup truck abandoned at the warehouse. Inside the truck, they found Ghantt's ring and surmised that this was a sign of Ghantt's intention to end his relationship with his wife. Although the FBI investigation was able to quickly connect Ghantt to Campbell, connecting Ghantt to Chambers was a more difficult task. Tips had led the FBI to begin monitoring Chambers and his wife's activities. But it was not until the FBI recorded a phone call from Ghantt in Mexico that the final connection was made. Ghantt started to run out of cash and turned to Chambers, who was annoyed by his requests for more money. So Chambers decided to solve the problem by putting a hit on Ghantt. The FBI had become greatly concerned for Ghantt's personal safety. They had learned that Chambers had plotted to have Ghantt killed in a murder-for-hire scheme using a hitman. Ghantt's spending in Mexico was extravagant at first. He stayed in a luxurious hotel and paid for expensive food and activities such as scuba diving and parasailing. Ghantt reported to Chambers that his supply of money was running low, but Chambers sent Ghantt just $8,000. Ghantt, in order to conserve this money, curtailed his spending. He also took various measures to change his appearance, such as shaving, after a patron at a restaurant pointed out to him that he looked like the man who robbed a bank of $20 million. The FBI investigation was aided by the gang's extravagant spending. They had initially agreed to control their spending for a year or two, in the belief that the government would vigorously track the spending habits of any and all suspects for at least a year before relenting. Chambers had no intention of following those rules, believing the FBI would never connect him to Ghantt. He and his wife Michelle moved from their mobile home in Lincoln County to a luxury house in the wealthy Kramer Mountain section of Kramerton. They kept several furnishings from their previous owners, including a painting of Elvis Presley on black velvet. They also bought a BMW Z3 with cash and made several large purchases, including a $600 cigar store Indian. Campbell used part of her share of the money to buy a Toyota Sienna minivan in 2 cash installments. From October 6th through February 20th, the couple made 47 deposits, totaling $271,500 at a Belmont bank, and at one point Michelle Chambers tried to get an official bank check with $200,000 in cash. An additional trip reached the FBI when Michelle Chambers made a large deposit at a bank. She had previously been making frequent small deposits to avert suspicion. But after one visit, she asked a teller, "How much can I deposit before you have to report it to the feds?" Followed by, "Don't worry, it is not drug money." The bank filled out a suspicious activity report, which ultimately reached the FBI. As the FBI delved deeper into the case, they began to piece together the connections between Ghantt, Campbell, and Chambers. Surveillance was set up, phones were tapped, and slowly but surely, the net began to close around the conspirators. After successfully tracing Ghantt's phone call, FBI agents coordinated with Mexican police to arrest Ghantt on March 1, 1998, at Playa del Carmen, a city near Cancun. The next day, Steve and Michelle Chambers, Kelly Campbell, and 4 others were arrested. On March 12, a Charlotte grand jury indicted the 8 co-conspirators for bank larceny and money laundering. The latter offense was included because of how they spent the stolen money. 9 other relatives and friends were also charged with money laundering, as they had co-signed for safe deposit boxes used to store some of the money. Prosecutors opted to charge them on the grounds that they should have known the money was illegally obtained. On similar grounds, 4 other people were ultimately also charged with money laundering. In total, 24 people were convicted. All but one of the indicted pleaded guilty. The trials of the Loomis Fargo Heist conspirators attracted significant media attention. David Ghantt, as the insider who had actually carried out the theft, was a central figure. He pleaded guilty to bank larceny and was sentenced to 7.5 years in federal prison and was fined $26,000. Steve Chambers, identified as the mastermind behind the heist, received a longer sentence of 11 years and 3 months in federal prison and with more than $3.5 million in fines. His wife Michelle was sentenced to 5 years. Kelly Campbell, whose involvement had been crucial in recruiting Ghantt, was sentenced to 5 years and 10 months. The only defendant to not plead guilty, Chambers' attorney Jeff Guller, was found guilty of money laundering and sentenced to 8 years in prison. In addition to their prison sentences, the conspirators were ordered to pay restitution equal to the amount stolen, $17.3 million. This debt to society would follow them long after their release from prison, serving as a lasting reminder of their crimes. The defendants were the targets of many barbed jokes in Charlotte and across the country, in part because of their extravagant spending. For a time, it was nicknamed the Hillbilly Heist because nearly all of the major players in the case came from small towns around Charlotte. It was later confirmed by the FBI that more than 88% of the stolen cash had been located or otherwise accounted for. More than $2 million is still missing to this day. The Loomis Fargo Heist of 1997 left an indelible mark on American criminal history. It exposed vulnerabilities in the security systems of cash-handling companies and led to significant changes in how such firms operate. The case also became part of popular culture. Books were written about the heist, and in 2016, it was adapted into a Hollywood comedy film titled Masterminds. For the individuals involved, the heist had life-altering consequences. David Ghantt, upon his release in 2006 from prison, attempted to rebuild his life, expressing remorse for his actions. Steve Chambers finished serving his sentence in November 2006. Steve Chambers, too, claimed to have found religion while incarcerated. The story of the Loomis Fargo heist serves as a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of greed and the ultimate futility of trying to get rich through criminal means. It demonstrates how even the most audacious crimes can be undone by simple mistakes and human weakness. The Loomis Fargo heist of 1997 remains one of the most fascinating criminal cases in American history. It had all the elements of a Hollywood thriller: a daring inside man, millions in cash, a cross-border escape, betrayal, and ultimately, justice. Their story serves as a reminder that, no matter how perfect a crime may seem in theory, the reality is often far messier and more complicated. As we reflect on this audacious heist more than 2 decades later, it stands as a testament to the enduring power of human greed, the relentless pursuit of justice, and the often thin line between ambition and criminality. The Loomis Fargo heist of 1997 will forever be remembered as a daring crime that was ultimately undone by the very human flaws of those who perpetuated it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to Breakout Bank for more videos.